Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to do a review on a game called Vantage. Vantage is from Stonemeier Games. It's one of the more recent games they've come out with in the last few weeks. It is a cooperative adventure game with very little in the way of rails and very little in the way uh, of being constrained in a lot of ways. So this review is not going to have it's not going to have spoilers, just because the entire game is rich with spoiler minefield opportunities, and so I'm going to avoid that. Instead, we're just going to get into it and take a look. So let's quickly go over what comes in every box of Vantage. Tons and tons of cards. Tons of cards. Hundreds upon hundreds of cards. One against the other. You've also got in this storage tray, which is one of the few that I actually keep, because most of the time I don't. Location cards, event cards, item cards, all kinds of cards, and you get these handy dandy containers that are going to hold dice and your Vantage holder, card holders, etc. Lots and lots of little things. What's interesting is that the outside of the box has nice helpers to tell you some of the iconography. There isn't that much in the core iconography, but what is there is all so sensibly arranged that you can lift the box top and be ready to go. You have the central main board, which is the common area where you're going to place certain things, elements, pieces of missions, whatever. I have the advanced edition, or the extended deluxe edition. I ended up picking that up. That has all kinds of your character is really a grid around, and so this really helps cohese all of the different pieces together. So instead of having a 3x3 grid in a loose free-form fashion, you get to actually place them here. It's just a nicety I enjoy. You also have starting books, which are going to help you get rolling. You get dice that are going to give you skill tokens or solve things for you. Boost tokens, which are used as sort of instants. Most everything involves taking an action on your turn. Boosts are little mini actions you can do for free. Money, I got the enhanced edition money, which everybody loves. They seem to adore this money. Money is so fickle in this game. And then you have these boost tokens. These are going to be helpful for you when you're doing actions and you want to mitigate some of the risk of that, particularly early on in the game. And we have books upon books upon books upon books upon books. Every single one of these actions has a corresponding book that is going to tell you numbers and pages, and I'm going to flip to it real fast to just kind of show you. But these are thick books, and there are so many of them, each one mapping to a different archetype of action to take. There's take, there's move, there's depart, there's help, there's look. Oh my gosh, yeah. So all of these books are essential to your journey, except for the fact that you can use an app. That's right. You can use an app called vantage.rulespop.com that takes all the reading and consolidates it into an app-based affair. So far, all of my audience, except for one group, has really, really wanted the app. The other wanted a more purist view, didn't like the app. The books are perfectly fine, nothing wrong with them, but it does really, really solidify and concentrate the game quite a bit by doing that. There's enough in the game that you're not going to feel lost about it. And then the rule book, which is again, it's got all the basics in there without a bunches of spoilers, but it tells you the core essence of the game. This game does not run on rails in any degree, shape, or form, and so you're going to find that a lot of the rules and a lot of the situations you're in manifest in such a fashion that you may have questions after the fact, and then you can refer back to this book. All right, let's get into a really, really fake example of play. Okay, I can't give you much of anything without giving you spoilers. I just can't. This game is chock full of so many places that if I gave you even a little snippet of it, I could be giving you a foray into one of the sections that you might want to experience yourself. So that does hamstring me a little bit. But let me give you a fictional scenario. There's also some examples. The designer also put a three-part mission together if you really wanted to kind of know. But on your turn, the effective, none of this is going to be spoiler enough that I don't feel I can share it. In this game, you are going to whoever's playing, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, everybody's going to have a different vantage. By that they means you are going to crash land on this world, and in this world you're going to be exploring. You're going to be exploring disparately. Some of you are going to be in different locations. You're not going to know where they are, particularly by name. You're going to know by description and by the pictures. There there are hundreds and hundreds of very unique artwork pictures here. And so I will do a very basic start. So here, weeks after arriving, after receiving a mysterious signal, your ship arrives. Yay! You get a challenge pool. These dice are very interesting. I'll explain those later. Then you gain a different skill. Whoa, look at that. Woo, I get to be this skill, 1438. And then you find its matching character cards, except I'm actually just going to use this. So this would be a engage skill. So I'm going to get an orange token. Place the card in the middle of the grid, which these already have them emblazoned on. This is your character during the game that you're going to play. You're then going to take 3 tokens that match your morale, time, and health. These are resources that go down. If any of them ever hit 0, you most likely are ending or starting to conclude the game with rare exception. Almost everything in this game has an exception. And so you're going to start here. These are going to map to, experiences that are going to drop this value for you possibly as you play through the game, because so many things are different. There is, again, remove any thoughts of rails in this game at all. Alright, so you get your card, you set your thing, blah, blah, blah. The first player, which is me anyway, gains 2 skills at random. You'd roll and get 2 skills. And that sounds groovy, except for the fact that you're also not only going to get these tokens, which again, they come into play later, you also use that to decide where you land. And so everyone's going to have a different landing point. 1591. Alright, so that's going to be me. That's where I go. 1591. Ooh. Cool. All right, and that's our mission. So we go here to 1591 and 1591, and all these cards are really, really well organized. And you're gonna go 1591, and it does simplify things greatly to be able to just grab them. They're very organized, and your mission is you must find an alien space creature that watches The Tick, seasons 1 through 3, the animated non, not the stupid Netflix one. Oh boy, that's our mission. So we place the mission out there. What's interesting is that mission could have any number of different actions that you can do, and this is where we get into the heart of play. We'll leave that. So all missions have these sort of opportunities to go, I don't really know enough about the mission. You can take an action to learn more about the mission, but that is your your overarching point. And even then, you don't have to necessarily complete it to feel good about yourself, but you can still do this action to find where do I find the cassette tapes? I'm on a beach. Oh, look, there's an old VHS tape. Oh, maybe it has The Tick season 1 with Deflator Mouse and Buttery Pat. Anyway, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to have a mission out there. See, I didn't give it away. You can also have a destiny, and those are kind of like, everything's sort of opportunism here. So you might find during one of your paths, and there are hundreds of meandering paths, that you're going to get a destiny as well as a mission. When you complete these and you finish them, well, yay, you've done it. You complete them both, yay, you've done it, and it's epic. You don't do those, well, you lost, but you learned some things. You had a good go of it. Posterity's on your side for once. Anyway, so this is what you're going to do. Now, what you're also going to do in this case is everyone goes to location 1. And I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that everyone goes to location 1, which is underneath here. In this book, yes, the Book of Secrets. Definitely can't reveal that. And in the Book of Secrets, oh no, the ship malfunctions every single time. That is one constancy in this otherwise impermanent adventure you're about to embark on. You have mere seconds to escape. Oh, too late. Anyway, you gain a matching. Each player gains a different skill, places a matching location in the center card, so blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, I'm going to go to location 3. And so location 3 is this card here, and we're going to place it here. And that's, so blah, 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 blah. You're going to place your card here. We're going to pretend that this is a picture. On this vantage point, this is your vantage point. This is your view of sorts. And you're going to be like, pretend that this was an ancient forest filled with Skoa. Yes, yeah. Little Skoa, little furry creatures called Skoa that go around, and it's going to give you a description which you can share with others, but you can't really show them the picture. That picture is yours. That picture could be very evocative. It could have some things in it. It could be a sandy beach. It could be a rocky mountain. It could show some sort of ornate sculpture, whatever. And again, you're going to get certain basically car. Actually, this one, you know what? This isn't too much of a spoiler. I'm going to show it to you. Look! Oh no, we're flying into space. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to roll these dice, and then based on what we land on, and the doubles are pretty hard. You're allowed to re-roll those if you want to. Oh look, so then we map this to another location, and then we grab another location, and that location's going to be like, oh, you show it here. The double-sided, that's why you keep this card with you at all times, and you're just kind of like, oh, you're entering the dark forest of the Shibamawama banana people. The banana people look at you eerily, and they ask you for a anti-shrubbery gravitron. So what do you do? And these are the things. And I'm going to show you just enough to go. Every card has these options of things to do on it. Again, you'll notice a trend here. Everything that's got these colored ribbons maps to some core archetypical action, but they have subcategories. So for example, the top blue one, that's usually called a move action, but in this case, it's not just move, it's a sneak type of move. Blah, 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 blah. Now this is what you can do. On your turn, there are one of three things you can do. You can do a location action, and that's what this is. So if you looked at this and went like, oh, I want to go north, I want to go south. In this case, you can only go north or south. If you go south, it only costs you one move, and you can just move to that card. That's another card you just flat out go to. You'll learn more about this world as you go. Eventually, you could master it after many, many iterations. If you go north, that's a special circumstance, and you're going to look up in the book what it says to do, and that could be a costly move. Or you could do one of these location actions. Only one per customer per game ever. So if you decide in this location that you want to sneak around these Termongolons and their bongo-loving shrubbery people finder anti-gravitron requests, then you can sneak past them, or you can assist them, but you can't do both. Once you've used their location, it's yours to keep. So they've got that location action on your side. If that isn't to your liking, there's other things you can do as well, and you can take any action on your card. You might want to take a personal action for your character. Characters do have opportunities to beef up and grow in many, many different ways. What is one of those ways? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can beef up by adding extra cards. For example, I have just right now, when placed, I should have had 2 cubes here. This character is pretty basic to start off with, but it's a scholar, which means it has some abilities. It can reroll challenge dice if it wants to try to get a better result. It can exchange these for money. It can exchange for tokens. Why do you care? Why do these tokens matter? Well, let's go into that now. In all of these places that you're going and what you're doing in locations, something's going to come up that says, take this challenge, go use this card, do whatever. And when you do that, it's when you take an action, for example, say in the last example when we had that special card, say I wanted to sneak. What I would do is I would find that card, I would find in the book the number on that card, and I would read that aloud, and it would give me some sort of example like, you try to sneak around them using your bungee diving equipment. Test of 3. Okay, so test of 3 means that this is a move challenge of 3. Now, how do you do that? 3 is the difficulty level. Sometimes you're going to get a challenge that's like 4 or 7 or something unorthodox. But it's up to you to look at the card and decide in that moment if anything on that card is going to give you indications that something might be a little trickier than it seems. You do get really good visual clues on that. And again, I'm not showing it to you because it's a spoiler-free alert. So say we're at a location and we read up and decide, I'm going to sneak. So I look it up in the book and I go sneak, page, blah, 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 and it's going to give you a piece of text that says, okay, it's going to cost you 2. Okay, so what you do is you take 2 of these dice, and these are going to be your challenge dice. As many as you have, as many as it says to roll, you're going to have to roll these. These are either neutral or bad. You don't want to joyfully choose to do this. You can always take a token, if you have one, or anybody else that's playing, and say, I'm going to ditch this to reduce it by 1. So I could take that token, get away. Now I only roll 1 dice. Well, what does that mean? Well, oh boy, look at that. That's not good. That's probably the least cool result that you could get. Why? This means you lose time. This means you lose health. Do I have anything I can do to mitigate that? No. You know why? Because these slots are where I could put dice if they matched. And each of these has some prerequisite, and then you can place a dice there to absorb that badness. and then it might even give you a reward. Some of them have little lightning bolts, and you can use this for other people. So, for example, if I was playing with somebody else and they had a different layout, for example, say they were playing this person, they could be like, "Oh, cool! You know what? I'm gonna help you out, and I'm gonna absorb that." Yay! What happens if you can't? If you can't absorb it, well, you got to take the hit. And now I'm already at a disadvantage for getting in and playing this game and winning and finishing, and I might end up going all the way down here, and my heart will break, and it'll be over, and then I'll start over again. Um, and so that could happen. Or again, you could use a boost power if it lets you. These are instant actions, and you'd be like, "Oh, I get to roll it again." What if you roll it and you get that? That sucks. That didn't help. Let's say I roll it again. This is great. It looks like a minus sign, but it's not. It's isometric goodness. This means nothing happens and you just get rid of it. Isn't that awesome? Why would you get rid of it? Well, because if you can absorb it on anybody's character, and as you get more cards, you're going to get more cards around here, and all of them are going to have some sort of way to like absorb badness, and some of those badness could even turn into good. Like for example, if this was not if this was an orange challenge, if I was doing an engage action, then and I got any dice, I could place it there, and I get a cube here, which is going to boost me up. So there's ways to take the bad and make it good, Pollyanna. All right, so we're going to go on. So basically, you're going to fill out these dice and absorb them. Over time, you're going to go over quests and adventures. You're going to be moving to different locations. You're going to be doing actions. Again, if you got a mission, you could take locations there. You got a character, you can take locations. Some cards let you take actions. Sorry, locations, actions. It's all a big, yeah. Until you watch a spoiler video if you want more specifics. But anyway, towards as you go on, you're going to be rolling these dice and assigning these dice or taking the hits from these dice. When you get to where you need to roll, but they're not your dice are they're out of the pool, and you need to keep rolling, then they all get refreshed, and that's a good thing. It's refreshing because it means now you've opened up opportunities again to fill out your characters with damage, bonus damage, and this is going to cycle on and go on. There's no set mission sequence. People are just going to take their turn, see what happens. Lots of things are going to happen. Crazy things are going to happen. You never really know what's going to happen. And I have played this game quite a bit with varying groups, and each one of them has had a different story to tell. But that's getting into review territory. But why not? We'll talk about that now. Okay, final thoughts on Vantage. What do I think? Let's go over, as usual, we go over the cons first, then the pros, then the final thoughts. One of the things that you're going to find as you play this is that if you're someone who relishes or has a desire to have very specific, immutable goals in the fashion of what is victory, what is defeat, what do I need to achieve, how do I achieve it, how do I do the math, how do I figure it out, how do I analyze this. This is not going to be a game that you're going to find necessarily addressing that in any satisfying regard. In other words, you can win, you can win, you can win less, you can lose but feel good about knowledge you. I mean, it's very, very loose in that regard. And so if that's something where you're a little bit murky on, like I really need more rails in the game as far as what I feel like progression and success are like, probably not something that you may find as satisfying as I did. There's also difficulty oscillation, which I thought was, on the one hand, it's thematic. On the other hand, it is. There were times when we started this game and the difficulty was super easy. And sometimes different characters were having different experiences at the same time in a difficult situation. Another one on some other part of this world was just beefing up madly just by choices being made and results and consequences. It can be brutal, and defeat can be absolutely imminent. I got into a situation where no matter what I was doing, I was not able to avoid moving to places and just getting hit by environmental damage, and eventually it all went off the rails. Meanwhile, one of my friends is over in a different part of the world enjoying almost a tropical paradise like the environment. And so there's lots of swings. And so if you were looking for a constant every single game is a nice curve and all that stuff. That is not something you're going to expect to find in here. So there's definitely oscillation in that regards. The other thing is learning, and learning is, again, it's a spoiler minefield in needing to be discreet when how you explain this game. I try not to give away stuff, but generally speaking, if you're, say, on Board Game Geek, you probably want to avoid subscribing to that if you are really susceptible to spoilers. I'm not, because I don't mind. Um, but the reality is that even as good as the rulebook is to explain, it was much better to have it after the fact to go, oh, that's what that meant, because you're gonna get the gist of some of it, but it's not gonna make sense because of all the different ways you could get hit. You don't know what you're gonna expect. It's like you really don't have. You could have very different, wildly different turns. That said, the core loop of like I'm gonna do these actions and whatever. Once you understand the whole wealth of them, it's like, okay, now I see the commonality between all the different things I could do on my turn. With the one-off situations, they do demand clarity. I'm not going to lie. There's certain ones where I'm like, I don't really understand what this is saying. In a lot of ways, if we didn't have the two mitigators that I'm mentioning now, it would probably be pretty difficult. There's this, the common rule of fun or whatever it is like, make sure you have fun. Well, it's not fun to have confusion no matter how you do it. And if someone's like, we all want to know what you meant by this, oh designers, then it's not fun to go, we'll just make it up as we go along. We're not that, none of my groups are that happy-go-lucky, or else they'd be playing Tales of the Arabian Nights or Story Cubes. But anyway, that wasn't very satisfying. That said, there's a huge mitigating factor to these cons. One is that there's a active and passionate design support group answering all the questions, and most of the time it's Jamie himself answering questions, not just answering them quickly and getting them over with, but answering them with grace, answering them with just kindness. Like, here's what we meant, here's what we thought, here's what we can check out. Super helpful. Something that this wasn't an inexpensive game, and I feel like it came with a support contract, and like 99% uptime contract, something like that. And so that's a really good thing. The other thing is RulePop, again, that site where you can just, instead of the textbooks, be able to just look it up on your iPad or tablet or computer. Huge game, like hugely helpful. Because Insta. So anyway, so those are now let's get into the pros. I do think that the rulebook did a really good job, as best as it could, of dealing with the core commonalities, and then just understanding there's organic learning requirements. And originally there hasn't been anything where I'm like, that's so out of character. If you ever played the old style adventure games in the past where you're like, there's no way I could logically get from this point to understand how to do this in my adventure game, you don't feel good about that. You feel good about something like, okay, I could see that. I look back on some of the clues that I missed, for example, in that situation where I was taking environmental damage, and I'm like, yeah, I really could have thought of that differently and come to a different conclusion. I was the one that could have done that. So, and again, the situational difficulties, they do get into spoiler territory, so you got to be a little discreet in trying to go like, what's true, what's not, unless you want to play like, hey, let's just have fun and read all the cards. But that's not how we roll. My groups need structure. Components, oh my gosh, what beautiful components. They're exquisite. The art on each of these things, exquisite. And there's hundreds of different unique pieces of art. And each one of them is not only evocative of a situation to get you emotionally involved, it's also tactically, logically, and curiosity wise, investigation wise, meaningful. I mean, it's really, really exciting to see this. I love the style of it. You have this, it's almost like you have your little periscope going around the world, and you see this much, they see that much, they see that much. Does it come together? Sometimes it does, not often. And that is one of the cons I didn't mention, is that a lot of people are going to find that it's multiplayer solitaire in a lot of ways, like No Man's Sky. Well, yeah, you could meet together, but for the first, in years of it, like, the odds were low and it was pretty. That said, it's a little higher to meet up here, and there's some perks and benefits when you do, or not. You never know. So many crazy things happen in this game. And just the joy of the box, the joy of the presentation. I rarely keep a box organizer. There's no way I would do this game without that organizer. That's how essential it is for organizing things. It's clear that the 8 years that the designer says he put into it, and probably more than that, really went to every single aspect of this game being presented on a silver platter of just exquisite thoughtfulness and careful design and careful attention and anticipation to avoid anything. It feels like, a lot of, like Isofarian Guard is another example of a game where it feels like they pulled out all the stops to find as many ways as they could to make the barrier to entry make you feel elegantly presented to.
Gameplay. How can I even begin to talk about it without giving spoilers? This is a true sense of exploration here, and that's good and bad. How many games have we had where the exploration part is so abstract that it's just kind of like roll some dice or draw a card and see what happens? And I find those to be too finite for me to enjoy. Instead, here you do have a sense of exploration because again, you can never go back again. You can't exhaust all the options at a location and go, okay, I'm here. I'm going to do all these things. Okay, now that I fully understand this location, then I'm going to go to the next one. And I think it's a brilliant choice to say, you get to do one thing here. Maybe in another game, you'll come back here and you'll try something different. And maybe the mission objective will be such that you'll want to try something different. And so here you have this little piece of the world, and you decide what to do, and you can't go back again. That's huge because not only you're always going to leave that location going, I wonder if I'd done something different. And maybe someday you'll get a chance to find out. But for now, you got a different story path to go on, and it feels mighty. The world building here is incredible, incredible. The vivid locations really do shine. I remember every location I was at. It feels very much like a game where like an open world game. I remember every part of Skyrim. I remember every part of Fallout. I remember most of Far Cry 4. Most importantly, if you want a place where you can vividly remember every distinct location, you can't do better than Elden Ring as far as video games. And this really evokes that same sense of like everywhere you go, there's something stunning. If you in Elden Ring and you see those first ding dong bell Imperial bell walkers, you are blown away. You're like, I have not seen this before. I have not already like experienced this before. Wow, what a sight to behold, especially when you're looking down on that vista. This gives that same thing. I love the partial sharing aspect where you're like, you can know enough about this, but let's just not give away the whole 10 yards here. To a degree where I'm like, does it really matter that much if they see it? It's like if you're describing it anyway, but it does add to that sense of like we're all separated, we're trying to help each other. We can telepathically help each other in certain ways, but in other ways, we're like, you're describing this to me. From the sound of it, maybe you should do that or this. But again, you're getting their perspective on what they're seeing too, and that adds a little extra indirection that I like. I mean, there's a stunning depth of varying circumstances. I wish that I could explain to you. Maybe if someone wants a spoiler, I will do one of these and actually show it to you. But man, the depth of variety. Like every single adventure in all these games. Again, when we pack the box up, I have people coming that want to start again and like, I want to finish that last adventure. Well, we kind of finished it up. Let's just start. And the whole point is you go again. It's you'll learn something new. Maybe you'll blaze that trail again. But there is something to be said for not having this long contiguous chain that you have to feel enslaved to. And that's one thing that I don't think I mentioned here in the pros, but anytime you're in a legacy game, you've got to have the same crew or someone to fill in for that crew. You've got this long campaign. You've got all these choices. You're doing the setup every week. And believe me not, for people who don't have long attention spans, Gloomhaven there's times when people are like, I'm playing this just to be a finisher, not to be an enjoyer. And this changes that and says, no, every time you're going to be in the same world, but you're going to have something different happen. And I'm telling you, man, the depth of variety in these experiences, again, the points are slushy, so it's not like you're going to get this mighty win. You're just going to get this. I bebopped around. I felt good about it. Anyway, and the contiguity of the world is very, very clear. That makes sense when you suddenly go and you get to look at this map for a little bit. Oh, well, that fills in a lot, and you're going to be hard pressed not to want to share it. The cohesion of the world again. Like I know that from the description what's probably going to happen going north, going south. You're going to get a general sense of what it's going to be like. And again, similar open world games. Avowed is another game. It's just like rich, detailed, very distinct ecospheres and biomes and places. And then the sense of vastness. When you're done playing one of these, two of these, three of these, four of these, five of these, six of these, seven of these, eight of these sessions, I'm still not ready. Even though you start in the same place, which again is sort of a drawback to a lot of open world games where you start in the same place. You kind of have to coerce. You have to intentionally choose to do something different. Or you're just going to go down the same path again. Um, you're going to have to hear, like, I feel like this is a world that could be explored for, again, another, 8 years from now. I hope that there are 3 or 4 additional packs or worlds or extensions to this because the system itself is worthy, which is odd. I just finished, start Space Empires 4 GMT. That game was started 20 years before it was released in 2011. It's 35 years old. It finally has 4 expansions and it's vast. Here, I would love to see this again. The other thing is everything succeeding at a cost is another subtle design change that makes a lot of sense. When everything succeeds, you don't have to fear the Reaper nearly as much. You just fear the after effects. That doesn't sound like it's that big of a difference, post-trib, pre-trib. It's just like, but it does, because it means that I want to do this. It's not what are the odds of me doing this. It's when I do this, what is it going to end up costing me? It's sort of weird. It's sort of like when you're at the, when you have, hey, you go to a miniature market and you want to buy a a product and it says, put in cart to see price. It's kind of the way, instead of like look at the price and add to cart. You don't get to see the price beforehand, but you want this product and you're like, I'm going to buy this. It doesn't matter what it is. Now show me what it costs. And sometimes you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Oh, a D&D first edition, you know, $3.99. Oh, cool. A D&D first edition, $399. Oh man, but you're going to have to pay the cost. You committed to it. But again, you have so many ways to go. Okay, it's going to cost me 4 to do this. I get a little taste of what it's going to happen. I don't know exactly. We roll the dice. We move our mice. Hopefully, no one gets hurt. The mitigating factors, and I don't think I mentioned character progression. Let's just get into that. I love the growing and learning aspect for each character. One of the drawbacks, again, that I don't like about a lot of games that are personal growth and expansion, is the fact that you end up with this sense that all you are is an accumulator, and I hate that. I want agency in how my character progresses. I want to be able to use special abilities, special effects, special something. If you will lose me if, I mean, it doesn't have to be completely absent of it, but if the majority of your games, Skyrim, the adventure game, is an example of one where all you really are doing is just getting more dice to roll or getting more rerolls. Wow, what a downer. Fallout, the original Fallout board game, did that a little bit too much, except it had enough variety and differences that I liked it. I want a game where I have agency and the ability to grow. And this kind of cuts into the middle. It doesn't fully satisfy that the way, say, Isofarian Guard does. Or, I mean, again, like you want an example? Space Cadets, the original Dice Duel or the original one, every single person at a station had some special challenge, tactile challenge to how good you were as a person was as good you were as a crew member. That is my sweet spot in my grail. And if I can find some way for to do that and have that be invested. I mean, it doesn't have to, it can be dice. It can be like I get to roll this more powerful dice or this dice that has different properties or abilities or whatever. There are lots of ways to hide it, but if I'm just an accumulator of dice and rerolls, that is really not going to impress me and keep me. And that is what this game does in spades better. Yes, you roll the common dice, but you are gaining cards and items and powers and abilities, and they're subtle, but they're meaningful. The ability to absorb badness in those dice in certain situations will steer you. I have, for example, if I really feel like the mission here needs me to do a particular type of move and engage and overcome, but I don't have a lot of dice mitigators, and I may have to rely on my other friends out there to help me. I might think twice. I might go, you know what? I think for now I'm just going to go and give my shot. I'm just going to use what I'm good at. Now, again, I'm going to say that a lot of this equipment is utilitarian. Knowing Stonemeier and knowing their aversion to violence. Even in Scythe, the combat is like spin the wheel, yay. I love combat and conflict and all that stuff. You can tell, look at my collection. But I went in knowing that if I, when I get a weapon, it's going to be like, is it really a weapon or is it like a plowshare? Either way, it still has utilitarian use and it's still valuable. And the quirky little side effects on these cards from the little boosts and all that, everything adds up. You were looking at your character and you were challenged to use your mind, to use your character in the best way for a given situation, all of which changes in these situations as you play game after game after game. I'm not going to say no two games are alike, but I am going to say that very, very little of the games share an overlap that led to boredom. Which is great because one of the things, people ask about replayability. I don't care about replayability. I care about meaningful replayability. And if you can achieve that, anybody can just re-roll stuff and have it be like, oh, it's, the shrub is here and not here. But if you can get a meaningful replayable game that I can spend 50 hours in, you've done your work. Thank you. Anyway, so yeah, you get your personal growth, you have your locational kind of challenges, and then you have your purpose growth, your mission, your destiny. What are you doing? What are you really trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish here? And a lot of these goals, like even the manual says, like you probably won't hit a lot of them, at least right at the start. Those little tokens that you can use, they start off as a way to sort of buffer when you aren't very well encumbered by joyous things to help mitigate the badness. Those do come in handy, but over time you don't get them as much. Money is a weird thing. Like most people, the first questions they ask is, what am I going to get for like, how do I make money? Because that's games are like that. Like, how to make money? Do I get a starting money? How do I make money? Money here is ephemeral. It's like you don't know. Is it going to be valuable? Is it not? The game's going to tell you over time. You're just going to have to organically learn that secret, and I'm not going to give it away in this video. Again, I love the group growth. I love the fact that someone grows, I'm like, that's cool. Oh, cool. You could help me out in this situation if you needed to. At the same time, you're sharing their misery. It's there is a somewhat detached sense of that, though. You're not all four of you moving along and going together and stuff. You don't get that sense. Um, and the challenge sharing, the misery absorption, all of that is enough for me. I'm okay that you're having an adventure in this world too, and maybe the twain shall meet, and maybe not. Again, some people didn't like that. They did feel like we're just out kind of doing our own thing. I care about you, but secondarily until it's time for me to use you. But I didn't find that to be a problem at all. And there is again, the power curve can change. You could become super powerful in a hurry. Although I will say that in one of the games, one of the guys got really really powerful right away, like really quickly, while the rest of us were floundering around doing stuff. And he felt so mighty that he basically started getting risky, taking risks, and got bit in the butt. And like, well, okay, rack 'em, stack 'em, roll 'em, and let's go back and do it again. And that's what we'll be doing next Tuesday. So. Um, as a verdict, to kind of tell you what I think, I'm just going to be dead honest. There are things that I generally hate in narrative games, and that's what I'm calling this. I could call this an open world, and it is in a lot of ways, but it's also a hybrid of narration with open world, and the open world is not defined for you with a large map that you're going to put on the wall per se. I generally hate slushy objectives. I don't like it when someone goes, "Whatever you feel in your heart, you won." I'm not that person. I'm not a participation trophy person at all. I don't like murky benefits and character bonuses. I don't like not knowing what I could go into and get. I don't, organically stuff happens. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. I don't like when a story drives games and the people feel like passengers. Like Tales of the Arabian Nights is a classic example, or some of the others, war stories and whatever. Like, and these are games I like, but every time I try them, I'm not satisfied completely. Tales of the Camelot, the Arthurian Nights, and stuff like that, where you just feel like you're just ride along, it's just like it's 70s, and you're in your Camaro riding down California, going, it's all good, don't know what happens. That's not generally how I like playing games. I like games to conquer. I like to accomplish. I like to achieve. I want to climb the ladder. And so those are things I don't like. Lack of clear win conditions and drivers to those conditions are something I also don't like. I don't like when logic and clever thinking are optional, where again, like you're just dice holders and reroll machines. And I don't like static branching where the best option is obvious. And it's interesting. And like I'm telling you here, like Vantage has half of these traits innately part of it, but it didn't stop me from loving it anyway. It had all the good of actually, yeah. It had none of the bad, all of the good. It was the Reese's peanut butter cup of gaming. It it's absolutely engrossing in every way. It is the open world computer game translated to a journey here that I love. And again, I have played a lot of these. There are certain ones as far as narration goes. I won't play Tales of the Arabian Nights, Tales of the Arthurian Nights. I won't play, choose your own adventure kind of games because I feel like the games play me. Like you just like I picked what I started with, but I really don't have a choice. Choices are obvious. Like, oh, if I have how many times in an adventure narration game do you like pick one of these options? Well, if you are really good at these things, you're going to pick the things you're good at. So there's really no choice to be made there. This is not that way. I love it. But then you get the open world games, and again, you get these. They're just dice. More and more we're getting smarter about agency, sleeping gods, and all the variations of that. I love that game, and it has a lot of different way. You've got your combat, you've got your story. You do have to, again, I mean, it's such a big world, but you do got to make your choice to go a different way. The second follow-up one did a little better, but Distant Skies did better about that. But again, Isofarian Guard, you've got your what's the one from the guy that did Splendor, that new game, which is a little wild. You've got the new one from Far Out Games. The name escapes me, but that one just exquisite and all that. Where you get a lot of Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin, like a lot. Oh my gosh, Elder Scrolls. That's not really an open world game anyway. But and then you get on the computer and you have the same kind of thing. You have these open world games, and a lot of times, there's a falling flat or at least a general lack of full satisfaction to those games. Vantage has met, despite the fact that by description I would not like it, I love it. I absolutely love it. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's clear that this 8-year journey was honed and polished, and boy, I'm appreciative of it. I would have paid twice as much for this game and not squawked. It is an incredible journey without burdens of continuous sessions. Notice that in all those things like the Gloomhavens and the Frosthavens, I'm asking a lot of people when I play these games, or just me, to invest. It means either I'm playing it by myself, or we got to have a lot of very serious people set up, ready to play, or else it just falls off the rails after a few sessions, which is basically how all my D&D sessions ever ended. This does not have that, because you're in it. You're in it for a little bit. You jump into the hot tub, you get warm, you enjoy the experience, you pop out. Guess what? Tomorrow you can go there and you could sit on a different seat there and you'll still get a great experience. That's a terrible analogy, but I'm going with it. Vivid, memorable drama. I still have, my son-in-law still talks to me about that stupid blah 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 at the blah 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 when he could have blah 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 in this blah blah blah. And my other friends, they're like, oh yeah, I did. Oh man, I could have this and that. And it's a memory maker. Meaningful replayability, like we talked about. The artwork being truly a harbinger, a clue into the vibe and purpose of each location. This is definitely the greatest storytelling game experience yet, where I felt like I was an active participant in a pilot role, not a passenger role. And so, and again, let's talk about some of the other opinions we have. We have some people who didn't like it just out of curiosity, and there's some that just like couldn't stand it, poor and uninteresting. Um, it ends before having a chance to accomplish stuff. I can see some of that. I don't see all of that though. I don't adhere to that. On the other hand, we've got other people that join me in saying like, yeah, 10 plays down and it's still revealing its secrets. That is me. It's going to be a lot more sessions of playing it. And the thing is, I don't have to spend a half an hour setting it up to play. Like, you guys ready? Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, we got an hour. Let's play. Um, I I hate most games that do that. I love this game. What is wrong with me? Nothing. And then, like this one, I'm not a fan of Stonemeier games. And to be honest with you, I haven't found one I like since. I've enjoyed them, but I haven't adored any games since Scythe. And again, this blew me away. Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with this individual. So anyway, what a time to be alive, right? So I highly recommend Vantage for anyone who understands those mitigating factors and still wants to enjoy it and have a good time. I found it to be highly above my expectations and plan to be playing it for quite some time. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.